Yes, good evening.
Good evening, good morning, and good night. My name is Declan Morrissey with two R's and three S's. His name is Artem Brusentov with one T, three S's, one V, and one B. Spelled Artum. Artem. And today we're here to discuss whatever Artem wants to talk about.
Well, first of all, that was butchering my name completely, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you for the heart. Yes, but today's podcast episode, I don't remember who the fuck posted it. Thank you. I don't remember who the fuck posted it, but I think the Instagram account is like Real Tucker Max. Is that count? I believe. I think you know that as well.
Who?
Like Real Tucker Max. I'm gonna check it out.
I have no idea who that is.
Wait, let me see. I might be way off. Yeah,
You
it
are
is.
way off.
No, wait. The fuck? Yeah, he's the author and co-founder of Scribe Media. That's what it is.
Okay.
But so like, actually no, fuck, it wasn't him. Anyhow, whoever it was, they said something about maybe it was Craig Edwards. That might have been who it was. Dude, like I'm okay. Anyhow, let's just go with Craig Edwards just to say it was him who said this or like posted it. I'm gonna see if I can find it. But basically, what he said was because he talked about just athletes and athleticism and strength conditioning coaches, and it was basically saying that a lot of strength coaches are gifted with just individuals who are naturally like genetically just superior compared to everybody else. And it's like, and that makes them look like a great strength coach just because they have this person who like know what they do, like they're gonna be awesome and perform at their highest level, just like be insane. And so while others are stuck with individuals who are never gonna become a professional athlete, and you can always improve their athleticism, but you can't really make them a professional athlete. And that's kind of just down to genetics almost, kind of because some people, like I said, you can improve someone's athleticism, but you can't really make them into a professional athlete. So that's kind of what I feel that. I thought it was just a really interesting topic because I can definitely relate to that. I feel like right now, especially like looking with some people who, some people are just insane, like really athletic, but when they put it with a sport, like they just collapse completely. They could never do that. They right now, and even when a girl, some of them are less athletic than others. They're a better, and those are kind of more athletic sometimes. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you know what? You're breaking up for most of that. But I'm going to go ahead and agree with you on that one. That, you know what? Gosh dang it. It all comes down to freaking genetics. I hate it so much.
No, but honestly, it sucks like that. Just because, like, someone like you, just a powerhouse, but it's like you can never really. What is it? What is that word I'm looking for, man? Well, yeah, basically, you're basically a powerhouse, man, but you would never be kind of like a. If you're just gonna go to soccer teams, like kind of like a box-to-box player who basically kind of run up and down the field and all these things. Like you're just more like a very powerful, or like kind of a lot of just power, basically, compared to
Yeah.
someone like who lacks a lot of power or just strength, but has a lot of elastic energy.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I've been going, I'm just going to do this. So, Bill Hartman, our dear friend.
Oh my God, no.
So, I guess one, here's something cool. I guess he's coming to Cressy's in March, possibly. Um, so I might get to hang out with him for like a week. Um, and normally I have to pay like $3,000 to do that. You know, in the immortal words of everyone who went to Exeter High School. You know, looking's for free, but touching's going to cost you something. Um, Normally, but now both looking and touching are going to cost me absolutely nothing with Bill, hopefully. Um, but he kind of thinks that if you have a very wide infrasternal angle, then you're very good at compressing like front to back. And you know, you're like you've seen Power Hour, you probably know this, that you're good at just like squishing everything together and then creating like a really large amount of force um, to basically like kind of move weight. And um, if if you're good at like long distance activities, you're probably a pretty narrow infrasternal angle and you compress side to side and you're able to like bounce pretty hard. And like, dude, I have no idea. Like, nor do I really care that much, to be honest, because like to me, like the narrow and wide infrasternal angle is so like easy to manipulate. It's like internal rotation on the right side. Like I think I don't know if I did that to you or Zach in front of you, but like whenever I think I did it to Zach, like in front of you. And like I had him like read the book backwards and like reach out with the book, and then his internal rotation improved. And then I like clapped next to his face, and his internal rotation got worse. And then I had him like do another reaching activity, internal rotation improved. Like it's just like really easy to play around with. And like if you get someone to fucking exhale hard as a wide infrasternal angle, then their infrasternal angle narrows.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like if you get someone to inhale really hard as a narrow infrasternal angle, their infrasternal angle widens. Like it's just like not rocket science, and it's not hard to change. So, like to me, the the hardest thing to change is like integration of muscular activity. So like if I'm just kind of you know going off of you in a nutshell, but like I think you're probably like a pretty like narrow infrasternal angle guy, because you've been running a lot and you're pretty good at all that stuff, and I'm a pretty wide infrasternal angle because like I'm a lifting guy, and like if I was like, okay, Artem, like you want to improve your back squat, okay, buddy, like time to make your infrasternal angle wide, and like I made you like breathe weirdly and your infrasternal angle widened, like it wouldn't add 15 pounds to your back squat. Like training a lot would add 15 pounds to your back squat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so I don't think that's like the sole reason. I think it gives people like a better, way to, I guess, like, train and whatever. Like it gives people like a more direct path to like an underlying like biomechanic advantage when it comes to like stuff like that. But like, one of my friends used to be a power lifter and like is definitely a wide infrasternal angle guy. And then decided to run an ultra marathon and ran an ultra marathon. Like he didn't do well, and he was like 225 when he ran it, but he didn't stop running the whole time, and like he completed it, and like a guy that I worked for is I think a pretty wide infrasternal angle and like has pretty good, like is a pretty good runner and not super strong. So like I question how much that matters and why you would want to change it immediately because it's so easy to change. So I think it does come more down to like genetics and like what fiber type you have um, how easily you're able to add muscle mass, how easy you're able to lose weight, um, etc.
I heard a myth that Chips Ahoy make you white, so you get a white infrastructure angle.
Wait, what?
I heard that Chips Ahoy, if you eat a lot of Chips Ahoy, it gives you a white infrastructure angle.
I don't doubt that.
Okay, so that is not. So you can just say busted.
It's busted. Um, but I mean, like, yeah, that's kind of my opinion about that sort of thing. I think genetics like gives you like a nice predisposition to things, but you can do a lot of things that will impact pretty negatively on your performance, and I think you can do a lot of things that impact pretty well on your performance. Like, you know, genetically, like I'm not. I know for a fact that I lack the gene that codes for protein, or a very specific like isoform of actin that would make me like a much more fast twitch athlete and like much faster and like much more powerful. But like I don't have like an elite vertical jump, but it's like
Mhm.
pretty decent. And like I don't have like elite sprint time, but it's like decent. And like I obviously don't have like elite level strength, but like again, it's pretty decent. And like it gets me there. So it's like, you know,
Yeah, and you're a pretty decent guy, like so it's like pretty overall a good package.
yeah, like and so like genetics doesn't like rule. Like I mean, so like I think that um I mean like an example I guess is like if I had like really good fast twitch genetics, then I probably would have pulled 600 by like 18 as opposed to 20.
22, 21.
Yeah, I think 20, 24. I don't know, for the first time. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like if that had been my chosen sport, like powerlifting had been my chosen sport, as the example.
Yeah, yeah, true, man. But like, I think if you continue on the path you're on, and also have a good supplementation of creatine, I think you can be like what's the name? The Bjornsson, like the dude who's from Game of Thrones. Because
Mm.
I just saw him 158, like 1,058 pounds.
I mean, like I just don't think I have the anthropometrics to do that reasonably well.
I
Um,
think you do.
or like I just can't. I have like a pretty hard, like because of the same gene, I have like a decently hard time putting on like significant amounts of muscle mass, and like I'm not on drugs, and like on top of that, like I just I don't know what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, like I'm also not 6'9". Like I could probably physically get up to 300 pounds. It wouldn't be healthy, because I'm only like 5'11", 6 foot. Like I'm not super tall, so it's
Mm.
like like not tall. Like I'm not physically tall enough to add that much weight.
I think that I think you're pretty decent, athletes. Like if we're gonna compare you to something, like I would say you're kind of you're like you're like Sweden in football. You're okay. Like you're not amongst the tops, but you're also not in the bottom. You're like
Well, that
you're like right there in the middle, like above average. I would say like a little bit above average.
well, I mean that was like my whole sport career was like I'm the best of the worst, or like worst of the best. Like I'm just like what I mean? Like in like when I wrestled in high school, like there were like 16 heavyweights or whatever. Thank you, and I was ranked like seventh. So like maybe sixth. I don't remember. Like it doesn't really matter either way. It was fucking high school. So like but like I was ranked like at the bottom of like the podium. You know what I mean? Because it was like a large podium. So it was like I was ranked at like the very bottom of the podium. So it was like best of the worst or worst of the best, like depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
And then like I mean, I was terrible at lacrosse because I like had no change direction ability and like wasn't fast at all. But um, like football, like same thing. Like I wasn't like physically big enough to be like, wow, that kid is an elite lineman. And I wasn't like strong enough to be
Yeah.
like, wow, that kid is an elite lineman. But it was also just like, well, he will take up a tackle and like will control the gaps he's assigned to. So like he's like, okay, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man.
So it's like, I think I would have been pretty good at like throwing, like many things.
No, but I think it's not too late.
I agree. I'm trying to get into the fucking Highland games, but the issue is like
What? What?
the Highland games.
Oh, never
See,
heard.
all right. So basically, it's an event where like you throw a bunch of stuff. Like it's like a track and field event for like Scottish people. There you go. And like, I swear to God, it's like the most ridiculous thing ever. So like, because they have one in New Hampshire every single year, and I emailed the people to say, hey, I'm not really sure how this works. Like, can I get in? They were like, ha, go fuck yourself. Like, they just didn't even email me back. I emailed another organization and was like, hey, like, this is also in like New Hampshire. Can I get into this? They're like, haha, no. Didn't email me back. And like the
Jesus.
only other one that's like close is like 3 hours away, like 3.5 hours away from
Yeah.
New Hampshire. So like I'm not trying to drive that far to be like an amateur
Yeah.
in a sporting event where I'll probably get stopped.
Dude, yeah. Dude, I'm actually looking this up, man. It actually looks like a lot of fun.
It, it is a lot of fun. Like I've done like some of the events like just as one-offs, and like it's a lot of fun.
Dude, the best part of it all, I must say, is that the men wear kilts.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
that's like very. Yeah. I'm very much into this.
I think it would be hilarious to compete in, and like it'd be a good time. So, but yeah, like I think that everyone kind of has like it's like genetically like a lot of things come down to genetics, but it's like anthropometrically and like physiologically, like what can you do well?
Yeah.
Like,
Dude,
like
there's definitely something you would do though when you're like 30s or 40s, because look, all these men that I can see, just like these 40-year-old men, just big bellies, just like yeah.
yeah.
So I think I don't see you right now. Maybe in the future though, I could definitely see you doing the shit.
Um, so yeah, I mean like that's what it is though. So it's hella fun. But and like like you look like a soccer player, like when it comes down to it, like so it's like little surprise that you've played high levels of soccer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
And like like it's like right, and then like but you don't look like David Beckham.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you look like the guy who's like going to D1 schools, or like the minor leagues of soccer, but like not like quite to the major leagues, you
yeah,
know.
no, yeah, dude, I totally yeah.
And then and
It's
like Beckham, then you're just like you get on the field and you're like, oh shit, it's David Beckham. You know, there we got a good view of little Beckham's body. Instead of David Beckham, it's Dave Beckham.
Mm.
um, so yeah, like I think genetics have a lot of things to do with it. Like, at the same time, like you can do a lot of stuff with like a little stuff, and it's like every like you look. I mean, Cressy's like huge on this in looking at like functional anatomical adaptations that people have to sport. Like, you see that like every baseball pitcher like has just, I mean, every baseball shoulder has a ridiculous amount of like, their capsules are super lax, like they're all hypermobile to some extent. They, like they all have a ridiculous amount of range of motion at every joint in their body, not just their shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so like they don't have capsule restrictions, and they're pretty loose, and so they can actually like get back to like 180 degrees of external rotation and then whip it forward, and throw a
Yeah.
ball at 95 plus miles an hour.
Huh.
And so
Damn,
like the
man.
same thing happens in hockey players. Like they all have impingement in their hips. They all have super externally rotated hips. Um, like it's just like stuff like that over and over and over again in sport. Like it's a very like common like archetype, almost like a heuristic that like comes through for like certain people, and like
Yeah.
you see like track and field throwers, like they have pretty big midsections, like barrel midsections. They have like decently sized legs, and their arms are like not small but not enormous,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like but then like you look at like or like a javelin thrower, they're like taller, skinnier, and like can run really fast, so they can chuck the javelin as far as they can. And then like shot putters have thicker arms for obvious reasons than like a discus thrower or a hammer thrower would.
Yeah.
So, like it's like a lot more than just genetics, but
Yeah.
I, I think that like you can train, you can train genetics to be better for you. You can't out-train genetics, but you can train genetics like to push them towards what you want out of your body.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like, of course, if you're at D1 universities, like you're going to have a bunch of genetically gifted athletes, and
Yeah. For sure.
like,
But
I mean, oh, sorry, you go.
no, no, no. I was gonna say that this is just like kind of I would say on the whole topic is that someone like I'm not gonna lie, like before like I never really looked like a football player or like soccer player like that, like it's just like from years of playing it as well. It also shapes, I feel, just like the way your body especially like in the young ages, I feel like your body also adapts to the way and it's kind of like then you based on that, like I don't know how much it actually does that. I don't know too much, but I definitely can say that from experience that it does help to shape like how you're built. If
Yeah,
you're gonna be like a bit more on the slimmer, leaner side, kind of like or narrow, wide 15% angle as well, that also plays a huge part in it. So just
yeah,
like doing your sport, a bunch of repetitions.
right. I mean, even like if you are into, here's the video. So if you're into like, um, if you're into lifting, like I'm sure that, like I did like a decent amount of running as a kid. So I'm sure that like I was like kind of narrow. And then like eventually I got into weightlifting and like widened it out because muscular activity, and like,
Yeah.
so like going along the genetics thing, like this is, all right, here we go. This is Devin McConnell's, like, I won't do it. Like that's his, like, I'm sure you've seen this video because I think you were at a Boyle presentation. Like it's like, I think it's like 500 pounds. He just like blows up on a rear foot elevated split squat, like
Jesus.
like a hand assisted rear foot elevated split squat. Like he just blows it up. Um, and and like to be honest, like that's great and everything, but like you know, like those guys are all like beasts on a single leg, because like hockey is a single leg sport, and most sports are single leg sports, but like theirs especially because you're on a blade that's I don't even know, like an eighth of an inch wide, and so like they're forced to have that sort of ability on the leg.
Jesus. That
And
was an ad.
okay, and so like of course they're gonna blow up 500 pounds on a single leg. And, and then like during his presentation, I think Holy Cross, like he was pretty honest about like, he has that group that is training, like they're really good at that already, and and then there's another group who is training like their reactive ability almost because they were really good at that already, and they weren't using nearly as much, like they weren't using nearly as much weight because they were much better at creating force with their stretch shortening cycle as opposed to with their muscular, like they were better at creating force with like tendon stretch than like muscular force almost. And so like some of his kids were weaker because of that, and so it's just like that's just like how they do things, and like that just comes from like them trying to be really good at hockey. And like if you're like, let's say like you're really really good at creating, like actually my stepbrother's like a pretty good example. Like he isn't super great, he's like pretty strong, but he's not like that explosive. And or he's not that like explosive like with weight. He's pretty explosive without weight. So he uses like a pretty like tendinous strategy to like move when he skates. So he takes a lot of steps, and then like someone who is extremely powerful with weight and uses a lot of like muscular strategy to move, they're just going to like they're going to take longer strides and like push and like try to maintain as much ground contact on the ice as they can. And it's just an adaptation to like try to get to the NHL basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just like different strokes for different folks. And I mean like that ain't genetics. Like that's them being like, all right, like how am I going to do this? And like, right, like, because like genetics can influence it, but like you could be a really really weak kid because your parents are like tall and skinny and you're tall and skinny, and you're like, I'm gonna just like I'm gonna try to like throw a fastball. Like you're just like, all right, I'm gonna throw a fastball. Like screw it. Like I'm gonna throw like the best four seamer in the country. And then eventually after one pitch, oh, there goes your lat. Because why? Because you're super weak, and you have no control over your body because you're tall and lanky and have like unlimited amounts of range of motion. So it's just kind of like, there's your issue. So right, like, so I think if people like lean too far away from their genetics, then like they'll get injured and stuff will happen. But like it's also like, well, I can't really throw a curveball, I can't really throw a changeup, like I can't really throw a knuckleball, I'm gonna throw a fastball. It's like some form of like their own skill kind of comes into like how they play the sport. So it's not like 100% genetics, but it's a lot of genetics, I think.
Basically, what you're saying is that as a kid, if you see that, like you could just, fuck's sake, what is this bullshit? If you like as a kid and as a kid, no, as a coach, you have like little kids that you're coaching.
Yeah.
You can even see that just one of them is just not having it. You can just go to them like, hey Jimmy, your genetics are shit. I'm sorry, but your parents are awful. Genetics are just like a bunch of losers. So you're not gonna amount to anything in this sport. So you can stay if you want to, but just know that you're shit. That's basically what you're saying. Like just to summarize it, then like.
All right.
No, okay. I'm really like, I'm fucking with it like completely right now. Like just taking over like one side like that. Yeah, but there is a little bit into that like that. There's some truth.
Yeah, I mean that's what the Russians did, basically.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You know what
What
I
the
mean?
Spartans well, man.
Yeah, like it's just like, dude, the Russians literally would take kids and just put them into schools based off of like what their parents looked like and like how they performed in like games as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, like by the time they were adolescents, they were in like weightlifting school, or they were in like the hockey school, or they were in like whatever system they wanted to do. You
Yeah,
know,
dude. But that's like, that's elite, you know,
right,
athletes.
right.
Because
And
that's like, young age. It's just, yeah.
well, I mean, like, I guess like I'll use just myself as an example because why not? Um, if you take one look at me, you're gonna be like, okay, dude, like really lacrosse? Are you serious right now? Like, go to the track team. Like, come on, like just go throw stuff. Like that's gonna be way more. Like that's gonna be way better of a sport for you. Like you're literally just like hanging out and doing like alactic things. Don't do this to yourself. But I was like, no, I want to hit kids with a stick. It's gonna be hilarious. Like, watch me. And so like, coaches would be like, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Like, you need to move your feet. You need to do whatever, whatever, whatever. And I'd be like, great, I'll do that. And I would like in the practices, like I'd work really hard, like trying to move my feet, like poke check,
Mm.
or like whatever. In games, I was playing linebacker. Like I didn't try to like be someone who I wasn't in
Yeah.
games, and like sure, like this is like how genetics influenced me, right? Like genetics influenced like the shape of my body and like the height I am and like the thickness of my body. And
Mm.
it's just like, and I could have said, well, I'm gonna try to be a really like wily defender and like rangy and fast, which would have been stupid. Instead, I was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
hit you really hard with my stick, and like hopefully it hits your hand,
Mm.
and I can break your hand, and then like you're gonna drop the ball. Like that was literally my thought process, and like if they decided they were gonna get too close to me, like I'd shorten my hands just enough so that like there was still like a decent amount of pull between my hands and I could hit them really hard in between where their elbow pad and shoulder pads were.
Mm.
And like they would just get a massive like I mean, and it's like also it's kind of funny because like that's like right where the deltoid like isn't anymore, and like the tricep like isn't really there, and the bicep's not really there, so it's just like straight bone. So like if you hit someone there, like it hurts a lot,
Yeah.
and I hit right there and like push them away, and they'd be like, "Fuck, that really hurt," and then they'd like stop coming at me so aggressively.
That's messed
Like
up.
they wouldn't like it is messed up. Like, but it's like gaming the system. Like I'm trying to play how like it fits my body style. Like
Man,
I knew I wasn't gonna be able to beat them. And right like there was another defenseman who had somehow was actually slower than me and had less foot speed than I do, which is shocking, especially to my father, who's probably laughing right now. But he like had the best stick work I've ever seen, like from anyone, like in college, in high school, like no one has ever had like better stick work than he did. And like, if you put the ball in his hands, he was terrible. But like on defense, he would take two steps back, somehow put his stick between your hands and your stick, flick the stick, and your stick would be gone. Like every time.
tough.
And like it would be out of your hand. Like you would drop the ball and be like, how did what just happened? And he would pick the ball up and then he'd try to do like some fancy stuff. The kid would turn around, pick up the stick, like whack, whack the ball out of his stick. It would just be like, it would be hilarious. But like, if he did that, picked up the ball and threw it, it was a great day.
Dude, we need to get Dan back on this podcast. He needs to tell us about this fucking magic hands of his.
What do you mean magic hands?
Well, the stick.
Oh no, it wasn't my dad who did this. It was another defenseman. My dad is
Oh,
laughing
I
because
didn't see what your dad, dude.
no. My dad is just laughing because I suck at lacrosse and you're an idiot.
Oh my God, man. I heard,
But
I heard your dad was the one who was doing
no,
this stuff.
no,
Okay.
no. But
Uh,
like, so that's the thing, right? Like, is like people find ways to be good at sports. You know, like that kid knew that Artem's house was going to burn down. You know, he knew that he wasn't going to be like the best defenseman when it comes to like, you know, staying with someone. So he just like checked him really well.
true as well.
So it's just like figuring out, you know, strategies on how to play your sport.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, like it's this, and it's the same across the board. Like, genetics influence that for sure, but like, you know, I think we got off on. I think I went off on a tangent on like sports influencing genetics instead of like how like, genetics influence like your strength conditioning and like just make you look like really good, which is like true. I mean, like I think that's literally what Caldeep does. Is he just like,
Yeah.
haha, like look at this kid who can squat 800 pounds, and then like there's a kid in the back who's like barely managing 315.
Yeah, dude. But that's the thing too is that always before I understood like everything about that, what just really shocked me. How like literally, like you saw people who could squat I don't know like 400 or 500 pounds, but they were just useless on the field. Like it's like football players, And then like you had the ones who were just squatting like maybe less than 315, but they were insane. Like like their vertical was higher, they were faster and everything. So it's always a shock like that. But it's just again kind of it comes down a bit to genetics as well on that. Like, honestly, genetics is just a messed up thing. Where it's like here's the cards you have, and like basically you can make the best at them. So it's especially if you want to be an athlete, like that's like if you're given like twos or like a 2 and 3, man, like, you can still become an athlete, but you're never gonna reach that high, like David Beckham was in that level kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's just and it's kind of sad, man. But it's just you have kind of have to accept that as the case, man. Like you can still become a great athlete, but you're not gonna become that level athlete.
yeah. I mean,
Unfortunately.
elite sports are elite sports for a reason. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
exactly.
So
Like for men like you to wear kilts and throw things over themselves
exactly.
or forward.
Like I think there's just like also a lot of stuff that's just like, you know, like there's also just a lot of sports that are like that though. They're like very niche and like very like, um, you know, like how about, you know, like not doing that, right? Like it's just like there's like tree cutting competitions and like tree climbing competitions. Like it's just like, you know, and people just like find these like very niche sports and it's just like congratulations, like you're literally doing something that is at an elite level, but it's also like, you know, it's also more or less like your niche sport because like you are very good at whatever you're doing. So it's like, you know, there's like opportunities, so it's not like quite as so sad that people are
Yeah,
not
yeah,
doing as like
yeah,
amazing in, you know, like football or hockey or soccer or like whatever like big sport.
yeah. It's messed up, man. It's really messed up.
So
The reason why I say it's messed up because, like, for example, the girls I'm coaching right now, like, we had a team we played. Like, we played against the same team again this weekend and last weekend. But it's like just physically, these girls like okay, like they're 1 or 2 years older than, but like just physically they're enormous compared. Like so, one of these girls was like I think my girl's like the tallest one maybe like 165. Their tallest one was like maybe like 180, 185. And like fam, like you're even taller than me. It's like it's just ridiculous. You're supposed to play against this. It's like it's just man, like it's crazy, dude. Like that's kind of I don't know.
like
Genetics, man. Genetics.
like like think about this for a second, okay? Like KO was like a really really good soccer player.
Yeah.
Like, and like you see her like walk into the classroom, and you're like, right, okay, like whatever. This like extremely small woman could not have been like an elite soccer player. And then like you watch her run, and you're like, holy shit, she was an
Yeah.
elite soccer player. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like you watch her like every time I've ever seen her like clean or snatch, she's just been like, yeah, that wasn't that good, and just hits like the most perfect like clean or snatch known to man. And like the only thing that holds her back is like severe neck pain. Like that's literally all it is. Like
Yeah.
if Ron Huska came to school and like had her like not have severe neck pain anymore, she'd probably be pretty goddamn good at everything she does. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just kind of like
Yeah. But it's like like Headley as well, prime cricket player.
exactly.
So it's
No, I
just.
think he's just a big fan of cricket. I don't think he's very good at cricket.
I think he plays. I think he's pretty good. Yeah, I could see him be pretty good. I wouldn't expect him to be like one of the fastest or strongest, but I see him as a very smart player.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like like genetics, like sure it might be against you, but like you could also be really, really smart.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the thing too. Like
Or
you just like you compensate for your speed.
yeah, or like absolutely sell out. Like if
Yeah.
this is no one is gonna get this except dad, but like Sam Fold used to be an MLB player. And like he's small, he's short, but he's like decently fast. But instead of but and like instead of just being like, all right, like I'm just gonna run at this ball and like try to catch it, LOL, he'd like dive for everything. Like zero regard for his body, just like literally would just like dive balls for because like he was in the MLB and just like like needed to play ball and like
Mm.
like I guess he like already knew Spanish by the time he got to the MLB, so that he could just be like homies with everyone, and carve out his niche in like talking to the just Spanish speaking players. Like
Yeah,
no one,
why not? That's legit, man. That's legit.
yeah, like that's really smart. Like he's a really like he's not,
Yeah.
like he's never gonna go to the Hall of Fame, but like he's really smart at like what he does, and it's like kind of the same thing, right? Like you can watch a ton. Like Aaron Donald is like a better example, I think, of like people might know him. Like on the Los Angeles Rams, like he, he's like 6 feet, and 300 pounds. He's a D lineman. Maybe he's not 300 pounds. Maybe he's 300 pounds, but like he's a D lineman, and he's fast, and he's strong, and he's low, but he's also really, really smart. And so coming out of college, he wasn't huge, and he wasn't like nearly as fast as he is now.
Mm.
Like he's physically much better now than he was in college because he's put on like 15 to 20 pounds of mass and like been and kept speed. In college, he was just like really fast, and that's how he got by people. And he was in the ACC, so he like wasn't a great conference. So like then when he got to the NFL from his stat line, they said, okay, like he got there and they said, okay, you're going to be a starting D tackle, and he said, okay, and knowing that the guards he was going to go up against were like 40 to 50 pounds heavier than he was,
Mm.
he needed to figure out a way, so he just started watching film, like obsessively watching film, like Tom Brady, also a great example,
Yeah.
probably the probably the worst athlete in the NFL right now, bluntly, like, but watches film obsessively, like
Yeah.
just and like knows what you're going to do before you do it. So like if he has a play in front of him, he knows like generally where linebackers and safeties and cornerbacks are going to go before they actually do it. And then he just needs to rely on his front line to maintain
Yeah.
the block for more than 5 seconds, and the ball's out. maybe not even 5 seconds, but like the ball's out quick because he knows where it's going.
Yeah, dude. Like that's the thing, man. That's kind of where I just feel that people don't really understand it because it's kind of almost easier to just be genetically gifted than to put in the work and like, watch all the videos, do all that stuff just because to compensate. Because it is much more work, I would say, than just to be have the genetics. Because if you have genetics, you kind of just put a bit of work and things are good. When you don't have them, it's like you have to do even more work, and people don't want to do that. So
Yeah,
that's the issue. It's like, it's tough. It's tough.
yeah, I grizzle. I agree 100%. So,
And
but yeah, I think that was a pretty good episode. Short one just for the people, and I just think that everyone will enjoy this. A little talk about genetics. Ready for a shameless plug? If you enjoyed this episode, then you'll get to see. Then you should check out rebelperformance.com because hopefully, kind of soon, an article I'm going to write is going to be on rebelperformance.com.
really,
So, yeah, seriously.
wow.
I don't really know what it's going to be about yet, but I'm just gathering resources right now to kind of pool it all together and put it out there and make it known and so everyone can kind of see like where everything's at.
Well, if I can give a suggestion on the topic, I would say to write about lift legging. It's like these new leggings for women that help to improve their squat performance by 20%. By tightening the muscles in the lower extremities, it helps you, generate more power. So I'll write about that.
Okay, I'm gonna write this down real quick.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyway, it's been a great episode. Thank you very much to our beloved followers and listeners, as always. And yes, this has been your hosts with 2 R's and 2 S's, both of us. And until tomorrow. Bye bye.